This story, I believe, will be of great interest to the people of Nanjing, China. It is a story from the Tang Dynasty's Youyang Miscellany. The story tells that 1200 years ago, the Tang Dynasty's Han Jin saw a mysterious young man perform the jaw-dropping Flying Nighthawk stunt in Nanjing's Waguan Temple, and then the young man mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind an unforgettable saga. During the reign of Emperor Dezong of the Tang Dynasty, after the Anshi rebellion of the Tang Dynasty, about 1200 years ago, there was an official by the name of Han Jin, who was a governor in the western part of Zhejiang province. At that time, there was a place called Waguan Temple, which is now the ancient Waguan Temple in the Qinaway district of Nanjing, built in 364 AD, more than 1600 years ago, and ranked among China's 5 mountains and 10 temples. On this day there were some merchants in the temple who decided to give alms and organize an uncovering puja to pray for good weather and prosperity. This kind of puja is open to all people, monks and laymen, noble and lowly, without any restriction. On the day of the ceremony, Han Jin stepped into Waguan Temple and saw the temple bustling with people, smoke curling up, and bells ringing. Suddenly, a commotion came from the crowd, and a young man stood out from the crowd. The young man smiled faintly and walked towards the front of the pavilion.
You guys, look, someone's going to perform.
At this point all eyes were focused on the young man. The young man confidently announced the performance.
I will perform a stunt on this pavilion to show everyone the real Flying Nighthawk.
This young man looked to be just in his early 20s, wearing a thin short sleeve, and wearing a pair of seemingly ordinary but mysterious to-appear leather shoes under his feet. With a slight smile, he leapt, and even flew up to the high pavilion as lightly as a flying swallow. Standing high above the ground, he was as flexible as an ape, sometimes climbing up the ancient vines, sometimes leaping off the branches of the trees. For a time he was like a flying nighthawk. The speed of his stance dazzled people. A young man stood on the edge of the tall loft, looking down at the audience below, smiling and gesturing. Then he took a bottle of water from his sleeve and gently poured it onto the roof. Then, he quickly slid to the edge of the eaves, his body hanging in the air, only 1 foot stirrups in the eaves, sideways to catch the flowing water, the whole action of the clouds and water, all in one go.
How is this? How is this possible?
He doesn't look like a mortal at all. Is this the Flying Nighthawk?
The audience held their breath with expressions of nervousness and surprise. Within a few moments, the young man was firmly back on the roof, hands behind his back, smiling at the crowd below. Applause from the audience began to rise, from sparse to enthusiastic.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
The young man lightly leapt off the top of the pavilion and landed on the ground. The surrounding crowd made way for him. At this point there was a thunderous applause all around. Han Jin approached this young man and couldn't help but ask him curiously,
How did you learn this skill?
The young man smiled without saying a word and quickly ran out of the Waguan Temple.